After that, we opened a pawn shop. I've always done that. I mean, there are a lot of things going on there because I like it. Do something good for your country and God, and then go back to work. That is a good idea. CH, I'm going to hit you. He lies more than anyone else this century. During a recent meeting, the shocking claim was called out by a witness. It sent shockwaves through the room. Pawn Stars fans all over the world were shocked when I learned that Rick Harrison, the businessman who knew a lot about old things, had been jailed for life. Where did the man who always seemed to be in charge go? What's the dark secret that's being kept from you behind that calm and smart exterior? Rick's life has taken a dark, sudden, and unknown turn now that he's doing well at his TV job. Very quickly, stories started to spread that he is involved in scams and trading stolen antiques. See this movie to learn how a famous Pawn Stars star ended up in jail. Richard Kevin Harrison was better known as Rick Harrison on the popular television show Pawn Stars. He was well known for both his playing and the interesting stories about his life that kept people interested. Since July 2009, Pawn Stars has been shot at the gold and silver pawn shop owned by the Harrison family at 713 South Las Vegas Boulevard. Who would have thought it? Who would have thought that a normal pawn shop could become one of the most watched shows on the History Channel? The show shows the interesting and sometimes strange world of pawnbroking. His birthday is March 22, 1965, and he was born in Lexington, North Carolina. People in the United States know him as a popular businessman and TV host. When he was only 2 years old, this boy's family moved to San Diego, California. He lived there for most of his youth. Not many people know that Rick has had seizures since he was 8 years old. He read a lot because of this. This helped him learn a lot about history, which was useful for his later work. But could the problems he had in the past be linked to the ones he's having now with the law? Rick's childhood wasn't very calm. Because of his seizures, he missed a lot of school. By the end of his junior year, he had quit high school. But not going to school for a while didn't stop him from wanting to learn and want to do well. Rick read a lot of books, mostly business and history books, to learn on his own. He learned a lot by teaching himself this way, which fans could see in how well he did on Pawn Stars. How did Rick, who was so independent and interested in the world, get in trouble with the law? Since he was a youngster, Rick has worked on business projects with his father. Here's where he got a keen eye, the skill to figure out what something is worth and if it's real, which will help him a lot in his new job. Her boyfriend Rick proposed marriage after she became pregnant when she was 17. The young couple got divorced after 8 years of marriage. Corey and Adam were their two boys. Rick's dad, Rich Harrison, opened a coin and gold shop in Las Vegas, Nevada, when the family moved there in 1981. Rick's personal life went up and down. Did that change what he did and chose in the future? It started out as a small coin shop, but quickly grew into the gold and silver pawn shop was famous all over the world before 1989. In the end, it became the main setting for Pawn Stars. The Harrison family had a good idea when they switched from a coin shop to a pawn shop. They thought they would make more money there. Rick and his dad had a rough start because they were trying to make a name for themselves in Las Vegas. Rick had to deal with rough people and places that were sometimes dangerous. But could the hard times they went through while building their jobs have led to some of what did people do wrong later? At the start of the 2000s, Rick was well known in Las Vegas for how much he knew about old things and collectibles. People from all over the world came to his pawn shop because it was known for having beautiful and rare items. Rick thought that his company could make people laugh. What did he do next? Rick Harrison was a well-known and beloved figure. Why did he get a life sentence? Wait for more add-ons to help figure out this puzzle. But did Rick stop when he was good at running a pawn shop? Not at all. This hardworking man had a great idea. He should turn the normal things that happened in his shop into an exciting reality TV show. What did Rick do to work on this thought over and over? Did he see that the one-of-a-kind deals and interesting histories of each item could be fun and teach him something? For years, Rick kept knocking on TV station doors and was turned down many times. But in the end, his persistence paid off. In 2009, he signed a deal with History Channel that led to a new part of his work. Could Rick have known that this choice would change his life and the lives of his family for good? Fans got to see behind the scenes of Pawn Stars with Rick, his son Corey, Big Hoss Harrison, Richard the Old Man Harrison, their close friend Austin Chumley, Russell, and other gold and silver pawn shop employees. The show showed what it takes to buy, sell, and value expensive and sometimes strange things. Rick used to run a pawn shop in his neighborhood, but the show was an instant hit, and soon millions of people knew who he was, the easy catchphrases he used. People liked how sure he was when he talked and how much he knew about history. His famous phrase, "the best I can do is," became a trademark when he was dealing with people who wanted to sell their valuables. And Pawn Stars was different from other reality TV shows because Rick always made sure the show taught people something. The things that were brought into the shop in each show had interesting historical facts about them. Rick often used background stories and lots of information to show how much he knows. People came from all over the world to see the show Stars or even be in an episode because Rick made the pawn shop bigger. When Rick became famous, he wrote books, went to live shows, and even opened Rick's Rollin' Smoke Barbecue and Tavern, which was a big hit. There were a lot of sales. The fame Rick got from Pawn Stars took him to new heights. He was in a lot of papers and on a lot of talk shows. He also spoke at a lot of business events and was sought after. Lots of people in the U.S. could connect to his stories about overcoming hardship, and his honest business advice earned him respect in both the entertainment and business worlds. But what really made Rick Harrison popular in the business of old things and collecting them? In all of his work, Rick was very good at finding hidden value in places other people might have missed. Is this something you're naturally good at, or do you learn new things all the time? How did he get so good at Pawn Stars? Was it his sharp mind and wide range of skills? On Pawn Stars, Rick has been seen putting a value on a lot of different things, from old artifacts to modern collectibles and valuable historical papers. Even though it looked like he knew everything, he often asked experts for help. He didn't know about things. This might show how smart the investor is and how well he knows his boundaries. Rick has bought and sold many things on the show. Some deals have gone well, while others have not. Could the fact that he knew a lot about watches, guns, and things from U.S. past be what made him so wealthy? Rick bought the New England Patriots Super Bowl ring in 2001 for $2,600, 0 cents, but it turned out to be worth a lot more after all. One of his most well-known deals was this one. Was this deal just a lucky break, or did he do something smart? Know how much rare sports memorabilia is worth and where to find it. He also bought a bunch of Spanish gold doubloons that were found in 1715 in the wrecks of a ship. It's clear that he was interested in both history and silver. We might not know anything else about Rick's life. Rick Harrison has won and been happy many times, but he has also lost many times. What terrible things has he been through? What did they do to him? Behind the bright lights are sad stories and broken hearts. With the bright lights and a happy face, what you see on TV might not be true about Rick Harrison's personal life. He has had many ups and downs and big losses. His life has been full of bad things that have happened, relationships that have ended, and wounds that won't heal. Not every deal is about valuable old things and deals worth millions of dollars. Rick has been married 3 times, and each time was bad. Each one might have left scars on his soul. It's easy to imagine how sad and alone Rick must have been after getting together with someone. Things that you thought were very strong broke. Could each breakup have made him less religious, hopeful, and content with his family? Rick got married to Kim Harrison for the first time in 1982, but they broke up after only 3 years. Through this tragedy, Rick learned for the first time how family life can fall apart. Rick had 2 boys with his ex-wife, Corey and Adam, but the marriage didn't last long, so he had to balance his own goals with being a dad. This terrible event made Rick more careful about relationships from now on, made him want to get a steady job, even more so he could take care of his kids. Rick was having a hard time, but his father, Richard, was there for him and helped him out financially and with good advice, but the pain didn't go away. After that, Rick got married to Tracy Harrison in 1986. Their 25-year marriage seemed to have made them strong, especially after Jake was born. This marriage did end in divorce in 2011, though. This caught everyone by surprise because they seemed to have a strong foundation because they had spent so much time together. When Rick's marriage ended, he felt like he had failed and questioned whether he could keep his family happy. After they broke up, his personal life became less well known. He paid more attention to the Pawn Stars show and his job at the pawn shop. His father, Richard, was still a big part of both his work and his life. He helped Rick deal with his sadness and made him feel better about himself. Rick married Deanna Burdett for the third time in 2013. At first, he saw it as a chance to be happy again after his first two relationships didn't work out. This marriage did end in divorce, though, in 2021. Rick had to face the hard truth of a broken relationship for the third time. His many failed relationships made him question love and grow as a person. He kept to himself and didn't want anyone to know about his private life, but Rick's bad luck doesn't stop there. One of the worst things that ever happened to him was the death of his father, Richard Benjamin Harrison Jr., on June 25, 2018. Rick's dad did more than just work with Rick on Pawn Stars. In business and in life, he was also a wise voice. The old man was a big part of the gold and silver pawn shop. Rick learned how to wait his turn, run a business, and value family there. Rick's heart was heavy after his father died. He was alone and had to take care of his younger brother. He was continuing the work that he and his dad had begun. Following that, Rick spoke less, but he was more determined to keep the shop's name safe and pay more attention to the show. Since the death of his father in 2018, Rick has been open about how sad he is. He lost his mind after his beloved father died, which made the stress of work and life even worse. Rick had to think more about himself after this tragedy, which made him stronger and more eager to get through hard times. Rick's father, Richard, was the most important person in his life. His strong and responsible views helped him grow. Rick needs to keep his cool and keep running Pawn Stars and the pawn shop. That's when it looked like the pain would end, but then Rick's worst fear came true. His son Adam died. It's awful to lose a child, especially one in a drug accident. It's something that can't be fixed. When Rick thinks about his mistakes and the many what-ifs that keep going through his mind, he starts to cry. This shows how much pain he is in. Will this severe pain get better over time? The people who worked on Pawn Stars had an emotional talk about he lost his 39-year-old son in a terrible accident. As Rick Harrison cried, he said, "I think about him every day." He was thinking about how hard things were for his son Adam. Rick didn't try to hide the fact that Adam had been hooked on drugs since he was in his 20s. He took his son to rehab more than once so that the boy would change. Rick felt terrible that Adam stayed hooked on drugs because it broke his heart. Was there something Rick missed, like another choice he should have made? Stop this terrible thing from happening? Rick can't help but think about what else he could have done. It's hard not to wonder, what if I had done this or that? When you think about everything you did right, you have a million thoughts going through your head. Rick's cruel, self-critical words show how much he was suffering. Adam died after taking too much fentanyl, a man-made drug that is very dangerous. It was terrible. Could anyone picture how awful it is for a dad to lose his kid, his dearly loved child? Adam Harrison was found not breathing in a hotel room in Las Vegas. He was later said to be dead. The police found that the person died because they took too much fentanyl and drugs. What the medical inspector's office said was that it was a terrible accident. Rick had already talked about the abuse of fentanyl in the U.S. and asked people to pay more attention to it's not safe. Could Adam's death make people realize this problem in a painful way? Rick Harrison told Graham Bensoner a painful conversation. As a parent of a child struggling with drug addiction, you try to treat them badly, but you never see an overdose coming. This powerful statement shows how helpless and hurt parents are when their child is hooked on drugs. No matter how hard Rick tried, he never thought that the worst thing that could happen to his family would. Is this pain that you can't quite put into words? But the storm didn't end there. As Rick Harrison found, it kept going strong. He was charged in a major case, and the judge gave him a life sentence in prison. That being said, why did people think Rick Harrison was the biggest con artist of the decade? Some dark secrets people keep are that they commit fraud, don't pay their taxes, and sell fake antiques. Rick had some pretty bad things happen to him along with the good ones, and he was mostly to blame for them. The gold and silver pawn shop was sued a lot in 2022, and Rick Harrison had to deal with them. There was a big case in 2012 when a customer named Wayne F. Jeffrey sued Rick in the shop for selling a stolen piece of gold. I found out that Jeff's diamond ring had been stolen after he said he bought it from the store. The cops had taken it. He wanted to get his money back, plus about $40,000, 0 cents in other losses. Rick said that his store made sure to follow all pawn shop rules, which meant that they checked with the authorities before selling anything. The store couldn't have known. He said the thing was stolen unless the police computer showed that it had been reported. The judge ruled in Rick's favor after a long court case. He said that Gold and Silver Pawn Shop did not mean to break the law. Rick didn't lose a lot of money, and Jeff didn't get paid. The case was over. In 2023, though, Rick's legal problems took a sudden turn for the worse. Federal agents were sent to arrest him. Unknown person broke into his Las Vegas home without notice. Why did this really scary raid happen? A lot of stories were written online because most people didn't know what the study was about at first. Was there a dark truth that was slowly becoming clear? The raid shocked fans and even people who knew Rick well. Agents from the FBI, the IRS, and the Cultural Heritage Protection Department of the IRS went to Rick's house and the famous Gold and Silver Pawn Shop in Las Vegas and searched them. When FBI agents and police, as soon as cops arrived at the pawn shop, the story hit the news. People who were there at the time, both customers and staff, were briefly detained and asked to provide information. The people who worked at Gold and Silver Pawn Shop said they didn't know of any deals Rick may have made, so everyone was very shocked. At the same time, FBI agents took a lot of important things, such as computers, financial records, and a lot of inventory items that they thought might have something to do with objects that had been stolen from private and public collections and museums. A lot of things were taken away, experts said. They came from well-known museums and private antiques collections. A group of Mayan artifacts that were stolen from a well-known museum in Mexico was one of these. A bunch of sketchy agents had been used to trade these things, as shown by the papers. The painting in Rick's house is from the 18th century and used to be in a Paris museum. In 2003, it was taken in a big theft. The police also found a lot of papers, contracts, and deals that showed the trade of stolen historical items, like several statues that had been taken from private collections. Internal Revenue Service, IRS sources said that Harrison may not have paid taxes because he didn't report all of his income and hid the money he made from selling antiques and doing other business through agents. It was said that tax theft worth millions of dollars had been done because of this. Once, the IRS looked into Gold and Silver Pawn Shop and found some strange things in their financial records. Tax experts said Rick's store had a lot of big deals that weren't taxed, fully shown in the financial records, and it looked like these earnings were hidden by using fake businesses or public accounts. It was also said that Rick Harrison had done shady business with people in other countries and not properly reported the money he made from these deals. The IRS also found that some of these deals were hidden as fake fees or saves to help them pay less in taxes. It looked into Rick Harrison was eventually charged with a number of serious crimes, including fraud, not paying taxes, and buying stolen historical items through agents. People said that he bought and sold stolen goods from museums and private collections. The deals at his loan shop were called into question by fans and investors as to whether they were legal and moral. This did a lot of damage to his public image. David Green was another important guy who testified in the case of Rick Harrison. Green is a well-known antiques buyer who has a lot of support among people who own and love antiques. David Green said that an interesting conversation he had with Rick Harrison was one of the things that made him wonder if the deals going on at Gold and Silver Pawn Shop were legal. In his statement, David said that he went to Rick Harrison's shop in late 2020 to try to sell a very rare antique, a more than 300-year-old copper mirror from the Qing dynasty. His family had had this very rare and valuable item for many generations. David was sure that Rick, the owner of Rick's shop, was someone who liked old things a lot. Things like the metal mirror he owned were important to him because they were old, David said in his statement. At the time, I thought I was just dealing with someone who liked old things, knew a lot about history, and could help me sell this item. Rick was always excited about and knowledgeable about old things, so I felt very comfortable selling the mirror to his shop. But after the mirror was moved and Rick paid him a fair amount of money, in the weeks that followed, David began to notice some strange things. He talked to other people who liked collecting old things and learned that his bronze mirror had been sold at a big sale at a famous museum in New York. It was strange that the mirror had been sold again for a very high price, but no one knew where it came from. David then did more research and talked to people who work in the business of collecting old things, some of his friends who work in the field. The mirror may have been sold again in a shady way or even taken from private homes before it got to Rick Harrison. After that happened, I started to think that many of the things in Rick's shop might not have come from real places, David said in his statement. This event made David Green think about the deals he had made at Gold and Silver Pawn Shop. When he was selling his antique, he didn't think it might have a shady history, but when he found out it did, he changed his mind. Since it had been resold without any clear information about where it came from, he felt lied to and had reason to think that other things in the shop might also have unclear histories. Was Rick really involved in these shady things? Financial institutions started to look into what happened after former business partners complained about strange transactions, and the History Channel stopped making Pawn Stars soon after the raid. Could this be the end of Rick's time on TV? David, his lawyer, said it wasn't likely. A famous Las Vegas lawyer named Marshall told the public that Rick had always run his business legally and carefully. Soon after the raid, Rick was arrested. He was freed the next day, but he had to go to court a few days later. Is there a different person behind the businessman who seems honest and knowledgeable? Rick's lawyer, David Marshall, made it clear again that Rick strongly denied all charges and would fight hard in court. But would this denial be enough to hold up against the evidence the police have gathered? The law says. As the case went on for almost a year, Rick kept saying he was innocent, but more and more evidence was gathered against him, and former co-workers spoke out against him, making his case even weaker than it was before. The prosecution showed encrypted financial records, strange messages, and statements from former co-workers who said Rick told them to change papers for valuable items. They also showed proof that he had set up accounts in other countries to hide the money he made from some high-value deals. One piece of evidence that was seen as especially bad was in a series of text messages, Rick and an unknown supplier talked about how to clean up the history of an 18th century paper that was supposedly stolen from a university. Could this finally be proof that Rick is trading antiques illegally? In another conversation, Rick is said to have talked about how to set up a deal so that it wouldn't require reporting big cash transactions. Could these messages show a clever way to avoid getting caught by the law? Last sentence for life. There was such silence in the courtroom that it seemed like no sound could be heard when the judge was about to give the sentence. Everyone looked at Rick Harrison, who had tried to stay calm during the hearing, but the stress was clear in his eyes. His son, Corey, who was sitting behind him, looked pale and worried. Chumley, who had been Rick's partner, friend, and student for a long time, couldn't hide how he felt. He put his head in his hands and looked down. His eyes were sad. There was a lot of worry in the courtroom because this wasn't just any hearing. It was a meeting with fate. It was very quiet as the judge read the sentence. It got even quieter when the judge said, "Defendant, you are sentenced to life in prison for your part in the trade of stolen antiques and serious financial fraud." A lot of lawyers, including Rick, were shocked by this decision. The sentence seemed too harsh for financial crimes, but the judge made it clear that it was for both those crimes and taking something that can't be replaced. There was damage done to people's cultural and historical properties. People thought of Harrison as a history buff who was interested in the stories behind old things. The judge said in a harsh voice, but in reality, he was part of a plan to steal and destroy irreplaceable cultural heritage for his own gain. The court can't ignore how bad these actions are. Rick's lawyers filed an appeal as soon as they heard the sentence because they thought it was too harsh, was too extreme, and violated the defendant's rights, especially since they weren't charged with any serious crimes. They asked for Rick to be freed on bail while they waited to hear the appeal. Everyone was shocked when the court said no to his bail request. As soon as the picture of Rick being handcuffed and taken away hit the news, it got a lot of attention. There was also a lot of discussion about it on social media, where it spread very quickly. Could this mean that all of his dreams are dashed? Would there really be justice, or would Rick Harrison lose because of the law, which he thought he could change? Folks and the media both had a lot of different opinions about the choice. Some of Rick's friends thought that the sentence was too harsh. It is a series of bad money choices made in a business environment full of traps. They thought of him as someone who has spent all his life working in the pawn and antiques business and loved history. But another group said Rick should have been sentenced because what he did hurt not only his own reputation, but also society around the world. Once the choice was made, the History Channel moved quickly because Pawn Stars was a big hit there. Yeah. But a network broke up with Rick Harrison for good by ending the show and immediately removing all reruns from the schedule. In a statement, the channel said it was very upset about what Rick did and reaffirmed its commitment to protecting culture and historical items. To protect the network's brand, this was a tough choice that had to be made. Pawn Stars was an important part of TV history. It will be hard to fill the void it leaves behind. The question is still open. What will be on the History Channel instead of this well-known show? Still, reality TV and the loan business have been changed by Rick Harrison, even though he has been in a lot of legal trouble. He ran a lot of businesses before he got into these legal troubles. The Gold and Silver Pawn Shop was just one of them. He opened bars and restaurants in Las Vegas and planned to do even better in other places. Will these businesses still do well if Rick isn't running them? The Gold and Silver Pawn Shop is now run by his son, Corey, but this job isn't easy at all. A few months after his father died, in a tearful talk while he was in jail, Corey talked about how hard it is to run and grow the family business. We've put in place strict checks to make sure that every item we buy comes from a legal source. What happened was wrong, and we are committed to being part of the solution, not part of the problem, he said. These steps, he thought, would help people rebuild trust in them and their business. Changlei had always seen Rick as both a master and a father figure. He also said that he had mixed feelings about Rick. He added, I learned a lot from Rick, but I also have to accept that there are some things about him I never saw or heard about. Do people close to Rick still not fully understand something about the truth? Maybe I didn't want to see. Fans from all over the world still loved and supported the Harrison family, even though they were having a hard time. It really saved our dad's life, Corey said. He reads every letter and feels strong knowing that so many people still believe in him. Could this love get Rick through his worst days? The family also held people who were really into the shop got together for prayer meetings to show their support. In this tough time, could these small things make a big difference? The case of Rick Harrison is still going on, and people are still interested in every new lead. Fans of the show Pawn Stars and the attention it gets make this story even more strange and hard to understand. What do you think will happen? Do you think Rick Harrison can handle this court case between now and then? He knows his friends will be there for him, give him hope, and help him feel better. Thanks for all you've done for TV over the years, Rick. If you like Pawn Stars, you might want to send him positive thoughts and words of support. Remember to like, turn on notifications, and subscribe to the station if you like the video so you can see new videos.